Rambam continues, Af Yeshua HaNotri, Yoshke, Shedima Shia Mashiach Venerach Bebeistin. It's a very interesting thing. The Goyim have been accusing us for 2,000 years. Terrible accusation. There have been pogroms and bloodshed based on this accusation. They had the chutzpah to accuse us of killing Yoshke. Now, if the doors are closed, I'll tell you the truth. We did. We did. The Rambam says, beferish. Of course we killed him. It's very interesting whenever you see Reform rabbis get up and they debate the church elders. And it's the first thing they always bring up. And they said, oh, we Jews, we're very liberal. We would never dare touch a human being, kill a human being. That's barbaric. We would never ever kill Yoshke. Why do we want to do it? What a nice guy to do a silly thing like that. And in public, they're always denying it. The emes is, there's no mitzvah to tell them. The emes is that, of course we killed him. He was a Navi Sheker. And a Navi Sheker is Chayim Misa. So when they found out what he was doing, they called him to Beis Din and executed him. Now, the Romans and the Yidden only agreed on one thing in our entire history together. We were together for over 500 years, the Romans and the Yidden. They only agreed on one thing. That's not a very good track record. The only thing they agreed on is that both the Romans and the Jews wanted him dead. The only thing they ever agreed on. So the reason they were able to get away with it, even though he had followers, had the Beis Din didn't have much power. Had they catch him? Had they arrest him? The answer is, they called the Roman authorities and they said, look, this guy is not only an Navi Sheker, he's a revolutionary. And we all know how much we hate revolutionaries. The Jews are very patriotic to the Romans, as we all know. And they asked him to arrest, and they arrested him, the policeman, the governor, whoever it was. They arrested Yoshke, and then the rest is really a moot point. Whether the Romans executed him, or they handed him over to the Yidden to execute him, it's irrelevant. We both wanted him out of the way. He was a troublemaker. For us, he was a troublemaker. He was killing the religion. And for the Romans, he was all of a sudden, like what happened with the Sultan and Shabtai Tzvi, all of a sudden they showed up, and there were all sorts of people following him around. The Romans didn't like that. So the Rambam says we killed him. It could mean we handed him over to the Romans. It could be the Romans handed him over to us. It's irrelevant. Everybody agreed that he was killed because he was causing trouble. The Rambam says that we already know from the Sefer Daniel that Yoshke was coming. Very interesting. You can't read Daniel. I mean, you could try, but it's difficult because, first of all, the Aramaic is very difficult. And the second reason is because all the Nevuas and all the date lines for when the Gula is coming is locked in for the Psukim. And Daniel tells you beferish that I'm locking it in, and don't bother looking for the key, because no one's going to figure it out. So Daniel is very hard to make heads and tails out of. Earlier in Daniel, you can still understand something. Pasuk says, "B'nei pritze amcha," there will be people, prutzim from your nation. Yenatsu lahamid chazayin, they will pretend that they have a nevuah. V'nichshalu, and they will stumble, and they will cause others to stumble as well. And the Rambam says this is referring to the Maisa with Yoshke, that he caused others to go off the derech as well, and ultimately it became a new religion. There's a legend, I call it a legend because it hasn't been proved historically. It's possible, it's just it's a very fascinating piece of information. There are those who claim that there was a very famous tzaddik who lived at the time when the church fathers were starting the religion. Keep in mind, the religion has no shaykhs to Yoshke. They started hundreds of years after he died, which is one of their big problems. They have nothing to pin it on. Even if they were around, he was a nobody, but they didn't even see him. It's a big problem with the whole, they try to redo the whole calendar to try to move him forward and move them back. So they should live 100 years early, he should live to 80 years later. They should be, at least have a shaykhs to each other. Had no shaykhs. They started the whole religion from scratch hundreds of years later. And they made up the whole thing as they went along. And the Rambam is calling him a mikshol. Why? Because at the beginning, he caused Yidden to go off the derech and follow him. The legend has it that one of the tzaddikim in the generation where it started getting very popular offered or was sent by the Beis Din undercover. This sounds a little bit wild, but it's possible, so I'm just going to repeat it. They sent him undercover to join the church fathers, who were all Jewish, by the way. The original church fathers were all Jewish. It wasn't a Geisha religion then. Matter of fact, the Romans used to throw Yidden to the lions, and they used to throw Christians to the lions. They didn't like either of them because they were pagans. They didn't like a monotheistic religion. So the original Christians were all Jewish, and they asked this tzaddik to go undercover and pretend like he became a kaifer, and to join them, and he was more brilliant than all of them, and he knew they were sitting down to make laws. So he said, look, do us a favor. Do Klal Yisrael a favor. Go there and make the religion a Geisha religion. Change the religion. Because they saw it was making inroads into the shul. You'd walk into the shul, and everybody looked the same. Everybody had a beard, and everybody was dressed in the same clothing, And they had in the same shul, sitting on one side, or sitting among the people in row 3, 4, 5, 6, you had people who were following the new Christian religion. And it was very dangerous for Klal Yisrael. They sent him to throw the religion out of Klal Yisrael and make it a Goyish religion. And as legend has it, Itaka went and he masterminded the entire thing, which makes a lot of sense. The only reason it succeeded is because the Yid masterminded. He went and he gave them a whole plan. He told them, look, you guys have it all wrong. He says, right now, we've been around already for 100 years. How many adherents do we have? How many followers do we have? 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. You want to really make it big? Now this is a moneymaker. Introduce it to the Romans. You have an entire empire out there. He says, what are you wasting time with the Yidden for? They're going to give you problems. The Rabbanim are out to get you. And you're making machlokes in shul. Start your own shul. Why don't you just go and start your own religion? It's a lot more popular and it'll succeed. And they said, it's not a good idea. And it was a good idea. And from then on, they introduced it to the Romans. And it took a while, but the Romans finally made a decision to switch the entire empire over to Christianity. And then it became a Goyish religion. That was the biggest favor, whoever that was, it was the biggest favor for Klal Yisrael. Because it never ultimately became an internal problem. It became an external problem. They were used as a punishing rod in the Gullus, which we're going to get to in a minute. But it wasn't a problem that we had to worry in our own shuls. Half the people weren't Ma'aminim. The legend finishes off that the author of the Yigdal was this tzaddik. And he wrote it at the end of his life to show Klal Yisrael that he was still a Maimin, that even sometimes you go undercover and you start losing your identity. You could be a spy for 30 years and then you forget who you are. So he wrote this Yigdal and sent it back to Klal Yisrael. They should realize that I'm still with you, I'm just trying to do the job, and he did the job very well. And it taka saved Klal Yisrael. So the Rambam now goes on to explain, which I think is a crucial piece of hashkafa. And if you're living through the Gullus, especially in the Middle Ages, when it really was very difficult, and you know this Rambam, it makes everything a lot easier. Kind of wonder. You have world history continuing along a path, and it looks like it's getting worse and worse and worse. And then people today, you say that the Goyim, it's a lot worse than it used to be, to the way society is today, and they talk, I have a lot of problems today. I'm not defending it. But if you compare society today to the society of the Romans when they were pagans, they've made a great stride in the right direction. Because the entire world were all millions and millions of Avdei Avodah Zarah. And that's terrible, because they had no hasaga of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was. Monotheism is a notion that they never heard of. So the Rambam says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Dafka wanted to start the Christian religion. He couldn't make them all Jewish. But he wanted to move them closer to understanding what a Torah is, what a Kabbalah Torah is, what a Moshe Rabbeinu is, what a concept of a Mashiach is, what a Tikkun HaOlam is, what it's all about. These people were completely in the dark. So he introduced the Christian religion, overnight had millions and millions of followers, did the same thing in the Middle East later on with Islam. Islam even did better. They're not even of their Avodah Zarah. It's the wrong religion. But they're very strict. They don't allow any geshkas. You walk into a mosque, it's wall-to-wall carpet. That's all you'll see there. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. They give out, I don't even know if that's the derm. It's just wall-to-wall carpet. They're very strict. And the Rambam is going to say, and I'll read it inside, it's very fascinating. He says, this is a wonderful step for mankind. This is wonderful because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to move them slowly in the right direction. You can't have the Melech Mashiach walk in. There are 12 million Yidden. And then there are a billion Goyim who don't have the Aleph base of what a God is. What do you mean one God? They have 365 gods. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like doing things like, he likes moving things slowly with a pattern. So the Rambam says, Machshavas bari elam en kach ba'adam la'asigam. We can't always understand what Hashem is doing.